This is the Fat Loss Pro Podcast.
Fat Loss Pro Podcast.
Discover what's needed to burn, build, and shape the body you want. You'll walk away knowing what you need to do to create results now. Chris DeFay is the authority on fat loss and getting you in shape. Cutting edge, results-based info from the world's best that unveils the curtain to quicker, simpler, no-nonsense fat burning, muscle building, and quality health.
Welcome to the Fat Loss Pro podcast. I am the Fat Loss Pro, Chris DeFay, and today I have an absolute spectacular interview for you that is all about you being able to make successful change. I've brought on Kori with me, which is the wellness director at the Diet Doc, and she is doing some absolute spectacular work. Most of all, we go into today how you're going to be able to start and stick with the change that you need to be able to go from the body and health you are now to what you really want. Because unfortunately, like you can probably resonate with, if you've been yo-yoing and starting and chopping and changing from so many different plans and you're not able to get the result that you want, you need to listen and be able to act on what we give you today. Before I hit play on this absolute rip snorter of an episode, I want to make sure that you can head over to www.chrisdufay.com, where I've got all some free programs and diets for you to collect. Better yet, I'm just about to launch my Lean Body Life, Physique and Fitness community. This is where I get to unveil the truths and be able to give you the exact programs, diets and protocols that you can use to literally get you in the best shape of your life. It's why I've created it, and after the beta testing that's just been finished, the results are spectacular. This is only going to grow from bigger to bigger, and you want to jump on board now so you can get the specials. Now, I also want to say a very big thank you for you listening to the Fat Loss Pro podcast. The growth is really building up week to week, and I want to be able to make sure that I give you exactly what you want. If you can head to iTunes and give me a review, tell me what you think of the podcast, and I'm going to be able to give you exactly what you want. Now, let me hit play on this because this is really good, and I really enjoyed being able to have Kori on here for you. Kori, thank you so much for coming on to the Fat Loss Pro podcast. This was something that I've only been introduced to you and your work for not that long, and I just knew straight away that I had to get in touch with you and get talking with you because the stuff that you're doing I'm really interested in, and I know something that is definitely very much needed in the health and fitness industry as well. So I really just want to be able to pick and find out the great knowledge that you've got. But before we do so, I obviously want to make sure that you can give your own spiel about yourself and tell everyone why Kori is so phenomenal.
Oh, well, thank you for that introduction, Chris. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for asking me. My name is Kori Propst. I am the wellness director at the Diet Doc, which is a weight loss and health and fitness and nutrition consulting company. We provide consulting services for individuals who are really looking to get in their best shape, learn how to change their lives, but do so in a very permanent way. The biggest problem, I think, among most people is that they can make initial changes in their behavior, but it's the sustainability part that seems to be a real difficult piece of it. But right now, I have my bachelor's degree in exercise physiology. My master's is in counseling, and I'm completing my PhD right now in behavioral medicine and health psychology. We just recently released our book I co-authored with Dr. Joe Klemczewski, who's the founder of the Diet Doc, called 50 Days to Your Best Life. So we're really, really excited about that. And the first phase of our new website is complete, and right now we're really engaged in this big project of completing the curriculum for the digital portal that we're creating based on the material in the book. And that's going to be our platform that we take our nutrition clients through. For those of us who sign up and really want to learn how to be their best mentally and physically.
You're a busy lady.
A little.
We were just
And
talking
I'm moving in 2 weeks, and so like I was telling you, that's kind of front and center in my brain right now. And so this interview comes at a really good time because I know that we're going to be talking about what can kind of derail people when they're trying to make changes in their life, and transition is one of those things.
Perfect. That's good. No, I think it's fantastic. And I do thank you for taking the time out for this, because I know moving can be one of those really, really fun things that we do in our lives. So sarcasm is also good. Okay, so making change is obviously the most important factor when someone goes, okay, I want to get in shape. And obviously the failure rate in which people just do not succeed when wanting to lose weight clearly shows there's a big disconnect. And I also am a believer that it's not really a logic problem. It's not necessarily an information problem to do with, okay, what diet do I necessarily follow, or like, what should my training program be? There's more at stake here. And I think this is where your expertise comes in, as to really being able to lock everything together as well. So let's probably first cover, like, what are the barriers for behavior change?
Barriers are obviously a very big problem. 98% of people who lose weight gain it back within 3 years. And that number approaches 100% within 5 years.
Wow. I thought it was only 95%, but obviously it gets worse and then gets really worse at 5 years. Okay, good. Keep going.
It does. And so obviously we want to teach people how to be a part of that 2%. And it can be done. It really can. When you look at data from databases like the National Weight Control Registry, who interviews and studies people who lose weight effectively and can keep it off most effectively, there are obvious factors that differentiate the regainers from the maintainers, and we can talk about those. But the biggest barriers to change, I think a lot of times, are defenses. Things like justification of current behaviors. Oh, it's not a problem. No, I don't need to work on that. No, I don't think that anything that I'm doing or the way that I'm behaving is dysfunctional. And when you look at like the motivational factors for change, and you see the stages of change, the individuals who engage in the most sort of defensiveness are those who just don't believe they have a problem. They're in that pre-contemplation phase where they're not necessarily seeing, they don't have the level of awareness that's even going to be necessary for them to embark on taking any sort of action. Yes. Then you have things like projection, which is a lack of responsibility taking. It's too hard. I don't have time. My husband eats horrible food, so I'd never be able to change. So blaming things within the environment or other people around you when it comes to the thought of making a behavior change is a big barrier. Mm-hmm. Lack of knowledge is another one. Just having a copious amount of misinformation. I mean, how many people come into my office and tell me that they want to lose weight, but they say, I eat well. I eat really
I love that term.
I eat really healthy. I eat all good foods.
I love that.
And yet they're sitting across from me and they're 50 to 100 pounds overweight. Okay, so tell me then what the barriers are. If you're eating well and you're eating healthy and you're eating in the right amounts, then teach me what's getting in the way. So you have lack of knowledge, and you have
Sorry, can I just jump in, Kori, because I think you just brought a really good thing up. Do you really think people have no idea about how to feed and nourish themselves properly? Like, do you think it's more of the step before the projection problem where they're having they're pushing the blame onto something else? But it's like, come on, is that tub of ice cream really good for you? Like, are they just justifying it? Like,
I do think there are people who legitimately don't know what's in their food.
Okay, yep.
Ice cream, I didn't know that it had that much fat in it. I mean, I just started with an athlete. This is a guy who he has biked all his life, has raced all his life, has never, he told me, ever really struggled with weight or food before. And so he's tracking his food for me and sending me his food logs. And I mistakenly made an assumption that, okay, this is 10 to 20 pounds that he wants to lose. He just needs a little bit of accountability, someone that can support him through this change process. And my first little bit of feedback to him regarding his food log was with that sort of approach. I looked at his food log and he was eating like 95 to 100 grams of fat. And I had recommended that he stay within 50 to 55. Okay, this was my recommendation for him in terms of his macros. And what I found out is he doesn't even know where fat comes from. He was eating an omelet, and this is just such a nice example of just the lack of knowledge. He was having like a 5-egg omelet with cheese, and you know what? That can be fine. Some people can eat that stuff and be fine, but he's focused on fat loss, right? So I asked him, okay, so if you were going to change this meal, tell me what you would do. I'm engaging him in the process. This has to be, he has to own this. It's his. But I did that with the assumption that he knows where fat comes from and that the yolk of the egg has the fat in it. So he emails me back and he's like, I feel like I'm being interrogated. And so now, now we're in this very relational process where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I just assumed that you had some knowledge regarding food. And he's like, you know what? You got to treat me like I don't know anything. And so he didn't know that the fat was in the yolk of the egg. He doesn't know that different cheeses have different fat amounts. And so, yes, I do think that some people just do not have that sort of knowledge. They don't knowing. And often they don't know what they don't know. They may think they know, but then they hear something that's completely different and they're just blown away. This guy, it was one of those people. And so I can tell that we're starting kind of bare bones with him. This is a guy who's almost 60 years old, like I said, an athlete, and has just eaten. He's eaten intuitively, and not until recently, when his activity dropped down, did he start noticing that his weight was creeping up, thinking that I probably need to learn a bit more about nutrition, and that's why he hired me. So, but yeah, it's a great question, and you have to wonder, like, if you're sitting down with a tub of ice cream, like, are you going to eat the whole tub? Does that make sense? You read a label and it says it has 32 servings in it.
The question kind of popped into my head because I was thinking, I think everybody listening to the podcast, they're all very switched on, and I think they would know what's going on, but there's still that factor with so many people, and especially with certain clients that I have as well. And I'm like, you justify things that you shouldn't be justifying, and I think that's one of those barriers that gets in the way for them being able to kick on.
Habits are hard. We get locked into our comfort zones, things that are very familiar to us, and we have to be willing. We have to be open-minded. We have to be able to say, gosh, this doesn't fit the paradigm that I've really believed for such a long time. Am I willing to look at that and see if there's something more effective, even if it's uncomfortable for me at first, to engage in? Yeah, I think that.
So do you think people are normally looking at short-term gain rather than the long-term?
Absolutely. And that's one of the big barriers too, is that they don't anticipate far enough ahead. When we set a goal initially, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose weight, or I'm going to do this competition, whatever it is, we get this huge dopamine dump in our brains. And it's like, yes, I'm going to do this. And I'm so excited. And this is going to be so awesome. And we're thinking about the outcome. Like, now I've got this lean, ripped body, right? But we're not thinking about all the effort and the time and the setbacks and the mistakes and the missteps and the actual, you know what? There are disadvantages too that we have to consider when we decide to embark on a big goal like this. There are legitimate disadvantages. Something has to be given up. We have to have the space. We have to make the time to put in the effort to actually succeed with it. So a lot of times it comes down to being able to ask ourselves, okay, what are the legitimate advantages to, say, losing weight? But what are the disadvantages too? I may have to really kind of look at who my friends are. I may have to avoid certain environments for a while until I learn how to manage them and not be so influenced by different cues or signals or smells. I mean, whatever it is. So identifying the advantages and disadvantages of losing weight. But then on the flip side, we really need to get people to think about what are the advantages and disadvantages of not losing weight.
Yes.
Because we have these, we have a lot of internal changes that need to occur. So, you know, the thinking errors that propel us in a certain direction, the old scripts, maybe the effective mental schemas that we adopted early on that maybe we don't even know exist and are propelling us in a certain direction. So there's a new level of awareness that has to occur around that. But then we have the environmental aspects and factors of change also. So the people in our lives and the places in our lives and different signals and cues that we perhaps haven't paid attention to. What are our patterns? You know, do I rush home immediately from work and go immediately into the kitchen and immediately open the fridge? Like, what is my pattern of behavior that isn't helping me get to my goal effectively? You know, one of the best things that I started doing, because that's, like, I'm describing myself here. That's what I do. Like, I rush home, I rush into my house, I rush into the kitchen, throw down my bag, and I'm in the like, I'm making dinner immediately. There's no, and now I'm taking a big deep breath because, like, I could feel my anxiety level. And I guarantee you that's most people's patterns. One, they're not breathing throughout the day. So they're operating on this go, 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 do mentality, completely unaware, almost like zombie-like automatic mode. And we have to learn to slow down. If we want to make any substantial behavior change, we have to slow down long enough to practice a new level of awareness. Why do I do what I do? Do I do what I do because I've always just done it? Or is there a legitimate reason, a valid and effective reason for what I'm doing? And if there isn't, then maybe I need to revamp my current behavior, try something new, do something novel, learn something novel, talk to a new person. I've asked my clients, especially those who they're really cerebral and they can intellectualize everything and, like you said, justify things, to get more in touch with the right side of their brains, which is the more creative, emotional side. Left side, like linguistic, language, reasoning, justification, words. And that's kind of how we are every day. we're professionals. We have jobs. There are certain things we have to do. It's go, 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 be, think up here. I will have them like eat with chopsticks with their non-dominant hand.
That's awesome.
And it changes the game. They're like, wait, this is just weird. It feels off. It feels different. It creates novelty. I ask them to take a shower backwards. I ask them to drive a different route to work. I mean, we're talking about health and fitness here, but we're also talking about the brain and the mind and how crucial it is to be as healthy and integrated left to right, up and down, in our minds and our bodies, right and left brain, to be able to make those changes as effectively as possible.
I think that's a really good point. So do you think like getting them to do something just so different from what they're habitually used to isn't necessarily like, it's also tapping into the both hemispheres of the brain, but also taking them out of that comfort zone so they're actually thinking and therefore having to start like they're beginning a new process so then they can look at things a different way?
Exactly. Yes, it changes their perception.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yes.
Chopsticks with the other hand. I think you're onto something here, Kori.
You need to eat your breakfast that way, Chris.
I'm going to give that a go. This is going to be hilarious.
So I like to use, what makes it easier to change a behavior. One of my favorite neuroscientists is named Dan Siegel. And he created this acronym that I think is it's really, really appropriate for integrating the left and right hemispheres, like you said, and being able to move with that flow, like you said, where you're doing something different and you're able to perceive your environment and your internal state differently too. And he calls it a phasis flow. So it's with flexibility and to learn how to be adaptive, to create a sense of coherence, to do it in a manner that is energetic and within your stage of development. And the last one is particularly important because if you're going to embark on a behavior change endeavor, you have to know where your level of motivation to change is.
Yes. If
you're in that pre-contemplation state, you're not ready to take action. If you dive into action, it's pretty much guaranteed you'll fail. If you go to a trainer and you legitimately say, like, I really don't want to exercise, but my doctor says I need to, and the trainer puts you through a session, the client's probably not coming back.
There needs to be an education process along with that.
Yes, to get a person to move from that place of, I don't really believe I have a problem, it's creating a new level of awareness, like you said, giving them some education so that they can start to think differently. That mental piece is so huge. It will stop us dead in our tracks, the way that we're perceiving our process. So a person too, shifting, we have to learn how to shift between the actual process and the outcome. Does that make sense? We have to be able to say, okay, what is it that I need to do just right here, just right now? Particularly for people who are changing their nutrition, they're tracking their food, they're logging, they want to get leaner, get healthier. It's great to have that ultimate goal. Maybe it's a body weight, maybe it's a clothing size, maybe it's a certain look. It's great to have that. But then you have to learn to back up enough to be able to say, okay, just right now, and create a sense of presence for yourself. Otherwise, it could become far too overwhelming. Yeah. We tend toward wanting certainty. Our brains, they want that. Our minds crave it. We want to connect dots where there aren't any a lot of times, because when things are in nice, neat little boxes, we feel comfortable. Everything makes sense then. But to counteract that sort of propensity for certainty if we were to approach everything and the process with curiosity. So to be able to ask, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I learn through this process? How can I approach this in a new way, like I've never approached it before, and adopt what one of my other favorite researchers named Carol Dweck calls a growth mindset.
Yes.
This really sets up the individual for success and long-term success.
Do you think the lack of a growth mindset is why so many people, I say especially competitors, are so unhappy because they're always focused on that end outcome of being that obviously stage lean, stage shape, but obviously there's that lead up to it, and then obviously what can happen after as well. That's just where they're beating themselves up mentally all the way through.
Yes. If they could approach it with this sort of almost like a blank slate. So when a baby's born, right? Everything, like you can't see me right now, but I'm kind of looking up, like looking around. Everything's new.
Yeah.
Never have they seen a ceiling before. Yeah. Never have they seen the mother's face. They've heard the mother's voice. They've heard the sloshing around when they're in utero. But everything is brand new. And I think if we could approach our lives like that, what is this? Wow, that's interesting. If we could approach our lives like we're a fly on the wall, seeing everything that's going on, instead of getting so wrapped up internally in that one thought, ruminating about, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be lean enough. I'm not going to be ready. I can't do this. This is so hard. Whatever that thought is that we get stuck on, if we could instead almost sit outside of ourselves and have that level of mindfulness, non-judgmental sort of stance, gosh, I mean, we really could accomplish anything with so much more ease.
That is a great point, and I'm such a big believer of that as well. And also I think something like meditation as well is something that's so important to be able to get in that mindset.
Yes, you mentioned this morning you woke up, you do your 15-minute meditation, and I would imagine that centers you, it grounds you, it calms you, it puts you in this. You tell me, but I practice mindfulness throughout the day. I don't have I sit for a certain amount of time, but it comes when I notice that I'm experiencing discomfort or a certain emotion that I know is not helping me. It's not effective. And that's when I start, it's almost automatic now because I've practiced it for so long. Like I automatically start breathing through my diaphragm, in this very methodical way. And I'm automatically out of my head and more into my body and focused.
So that's like, this is obviously something that's habit forming. And just like how I've gotten myself into the habit of meditating every morning now, what's the best way to set up a habit?
The best way to set up a habit.
Yeah, is that too broad?
We have to prepare. One, I think it comes back to recognizing that it's going to take time, it's going to take space, it's going to take effort first. Yeah. The second thing, though, is recognizing that if we want to set up a habit to be sustainable, we have to be willing to look at how to make this, let me rephrase, how to weave it into the very fabric of our lives. It has to become a part of us. It has to become something that we don't do necessarily because someone else thinks we have to, or It's necessary. We do it because we love it. We do it because it's that important to us. And when you look at the research around goal motivation and persistence, and when I say that, I look at that as a habit, something we just do because, well, partly for the pure enjoyment of it. Like, I don't get up in the morning and exercise because my doctor said I need to. I don't get up in the morning and exercise because it's good for my heart, although I know it is. I don't get up in the morning and exercise because I want to keep my bones strong. I don't think about it that way. I know those are the ancillary benefits, but I get up in the morning and exercise because I love how I freaking feel when I do it. I love to sweat. I love to move. I love that energy that I feel when I'm on the treadmill, when I'm doing my functional workouts, when I'm, under the squat bar. I love it. But aside from that, we have to recognize too that the goals that are going to stick, the goals and the habits that are really going to be pursued with interest and persistence are the ones that really meet three basic psychological needs that every single human being on the planet have. They're autonomy, competence, and connection. And those three things, when they're being met and when they're not being thwarted or threatened in some way, create this very, very intense level of self-determination that has a person being able to say, I just do it. I just do it. And can, when they're doing it, get them into that state of flow where time disappears. There's no critique going on. There's no question of, am I doing this right? Am I doing something wrong? Are people watching me? There isn't that. You're not lost because you're intensely focused, but there's none of that. There's no self-critique at all. But with that self-determination, with that autonomy that I mentioned, that's at the heart of a goal that is in a habit that's never let go of. It's a sense of choice. I am doing this because it's important to me. I chose this. No one forced me to do it. No one is demanding that I do it. This is mine. I own it. And you hear that a lot. You hear that so often from trainers or consultants. You have to own it. Yeah. And that is, it's so important. If someone else is telling you that this is important, when I'm thinking of competitors that have come to us, who have told us the experiences they've had with previous coaches, who have said, you have to eat this. You cannot deviate at all. They don't have the ability to ask questions. If they do, it's like, because they said so. Yeah. What is that? Yeah. It totally takes away their sense of autonomy, and they won't want to continue. Why did they think, why are they searching for someone else, something new, something to get into? So the other thing is, it's competence too. We have to have a level of competence if we expect to create sustainable behavior change and turn it into a habit. So like with someone who is really changing their eating habits, learning something new, developing new skills, learning how to cook. And with that comes keeping it interesting, keeping it fun, learning a new recipe. I mean, I say that I hate cooking from recipes, but a lot of people love it. Trying a new food. I have so many clients who there's like vegetables they've never heard of before. And so sometimes it's like, I'm just going to try this one new food this week.
Like it can be as simple as that to get the
as simple success. As that. Yeah. To create that level of confidence. If we move them too fast, if someone tries to move too fast into action and the competence just isn't there. I mean, like you said, we want to get people slightly out of their comfort zones. Yeah. That's what keeps us engaged, right? We have to have something that we're kind of striving for. If they're so far out of their comfort zones that, it's just way past where they're like, I can't do this, they're going to give up. So we got to look at the competence. We have to look at the autonomy. We have to look at how can they create this in a way that's going to keep them engaged and interested. But then we have to look at the connection too. And I see this as one of the biggest pieces of creating a habit. We got to surround ourselves by people we feel like we belong among, not that we fit in with. That's very different. But when I say fit in, it's almost like we're trying to recreate ourselves, or, we maybe put on a mask so we feel accepted.
Yep.
That's different. Connection is actually feeling loved, feeling like we relate, and then having the opportunity to give that back at the same time.
Like being a part of the tribe.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, and there's so much research out there too that shows, we're connected in ways that we don't know. We adopt the habits of the people we hang out with. If you hang out with fat people, you're going to be fat. If you hang out with people who smoke, you're probably going to smoke. If you hang out with people who drink a lot, you're probably going to drink a lot. So we see it over and over and over again.
Yeah, it just really hammers home the phrase, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
There you go. Yeah.
You brought up a really good thing before. I've written notes like crazy the whole time. This is fantastic. What are the obvious factors from a successful person to an unsuccessful person?
Oh, okay. So yes, this is good. We don't want to leave this out. We've got 3 factors that are pretty crucial when you look at the biggest barriers for making successful change. One of them is self-blame. The second is daily temptations. And the third is overconfidence. And you look at any theory of behavior change, and these are the 3 factors that are very, very consistent. So if these are things, and you see it all the time, I have clients who, and I was IMing with a client last night. This guy's lost 66 pounds, total rock star, has just rocked it out of the park. And he said to me, I'm ready to be at the end of this. And I cringed. And I just waited, and I was like, please say something to follow that up with, and to give me peace of mind that I've done my job a little bit better than that, for you to think that it's over. Like, once you've lost the weight, it's over. Because it's not. Once you've lost the weight, okay, now we're transitioning into maintenance. It looks very different, but it still takes vigilance. It still takes awareness. And that's one of the other things, is it's a constant level of vigilance. So that's one of the factors. Constant vigilance and monitoring of your behavior. Now the thing is that gets easier. Of course, when you first start, you're having to do things very deliberately with a lot of consciousness. You may be setting reminders for yourself. You're setting out your clothes. You're preparing foods in advance. I mean, whatever it is, whatever behavior change you're moving toward. It's like tying your shoes. Remember when you were little and you had to learn how to tie your shoes? You had to think through every step, right? Okay, well, I put this lace over that one, and then I loop that around, and I remember thinking, this is so hard, and I had to take my time. Same with counting money, driving a stick shift, telling time. We had to be very deliberate about it, and that's what we have to do to be successful in the beginning. But it becomes easier and easier and easier as we gain confidence, and it becomes more automatic. So that vigilance is very, very important, and with the recognition that it won't always take this much energy, but it will always take some. When you look at the pie of your life, if you were divide your life into a pie with pieces, exercise should always be a piece. always be a piece. Nutrition and health should always be a piece. Now, are the pieces going to be the same size every single day, every month, every year of your life? No. And that's where the flexibility comes in. So the individuals who are most successful long-term have a structure, but they have a flexible structure. If I'm traveling, I know that I'm not going to train 6 days a week.
Sorry, I just had a really good thought. This just popped up because I had another question written down. Was, do you think why competitors, like as in physique competitors, can just completely fall off the wagon is because they've never had that flexibility before? Because as you were saying before, they might have had a coach that's just like black and white, like you don't ask questions, you just get given the plan and it's just do it, don't ask. They've never had that flexibility, so when they do have the flexibility, well, it's kind of like, okay, well, it's just, they just fall off.
Yeah, you see it all the time. They've never had the flexibility. They don't know even what that means.
Yeah.
And I mean, while we do like certainty, it's so funny. We have a lot of competitors who will say, I need a meal plan. Like, I need to be told exactly what to eat, how much, when, why. I need basically for you to stuff me in a box and be my brain for me, right? I don't want to have to think. I've heard that. I don't want to have to think. I'm just like, you don't want to have to think. I don't know what to think about that. But yes, you go from one extreme to another instead of kind of gradually pushing the boundary a little bit and saying, okay, how comfortable is this? Okay, if that's comfortable, okay, maybe I can loosen the reins a little bit more here. But, you know, I'm working with a competitor right now who's had poor experiences in the past. And, you know, she said to me, like, I can't make my own decisions. I don't have the confidence to make my own decisions. And that's her perception. At the same time, you know, as I've been working with her, she's made a lot of her own decisions, and they've been very sound and wise decisions. But sometimes we need permission. We need to hear from someone that we trust. Yeah, that's sound, that's valid. Let's try that on. Yeah. The competitors that fall off the wagon, they don't have any guidance usually. So they've been on this very strict, very regimented diet or nutrition strategy. They compete, and then the support is zero, and they don't know what to do. So they try to eat intuitively, but it's like, you know, when you have a competition brain, this is how I've described it to people. You have a quote unquote normal brain, and then you have a competition brain. And it's like you have to flip that switch to go back to, okay, so I don't have to eat every 3 hours. That's weird. Okay, so I don't have to have protein and carbs with every meal. That's strange. Okay, so when my body tells me I'm really hungry, I don't have to say, no, you can't eat. You have to wait another hour. You gotta have a level of awareness to start to recognize, okay, what have I been doing? What have I been thinking? And is that effective now? We're incentive-driven creatures. There's a reason why they did what they did. It worked in that situation. But now they're in this kind of new life, and that's what it feels like. Like they just came out of the cocoon, and they're like, I don't know what to do.
The butterfly isn't flying.
Exactly. My wings are stuck.
That kind of segues me pretty well over into how much do you think there is the importance of accountability?
I think accountability oftentimes really It sinks right down into connection to me. But you see individuals who, and if you're really looking at an individual who is going to adopt that growth mindset, they learn how to be their own accountability. And they learn how to do that by looking at things objectively. So, like the person who knows that if I want to maintain my weight for the rest of my life, I need to weigh myself every day. That's what maintainers do. It's objective. And so I look at that number, and it's a number. It's not flashing you're fat, you're lazy. You know, you're able to look at that number as just a number. But accountability, it can come from people or from factors in your life, objective measurements. But the objectivity piece is really key to be able to say, okay, you know what? That was the weight I told myself would be my trigger pull weight. Yeah. I don't want to get above that. So if I'm really going to take this seriously, now's the time when, you know what, I might start tracking again just to see if I'm eating more here, if I'm going out to eat more there, have my patterns changed a little bit. That's a good level of accountability right there. It's huge. It really is. But for a person to say, you know, I need a trainer for the rest of my life, or
exactly. It's unrealistic.
I need a nutrition consultant for the rest of my life. You've got kind of two camps of people. You've got individuals who adopt what's called an entity lay theory, and you have people who adopt an incremental lay theory. So the individuals who adopt the entity lay theory, and a lay theory is just kind of a perception of development and ability, really, to break it down. These individuals are the ones who say, I need you to tell me what to eat. I need you to tell me what to do and when to do it. Because any misstep or mistake they make is like confirmation of what's wrong with them, of something that they're never going to be able to change, confirmation that they're just a failure. So if you tell me what to do, I can't fail, right? That's kind of the perception. On the opposite end of the continuum are the people who really adopt an incremental lay theory. It really relates to a growth mindset. So they look at mistakes or setbacks as opportunities to learn. They're the ones who don't fall into the what the hell effect. Oh my gosh. That meal, I can't believe I just did that. What is wrong with me? My entire day is ruined now. I'm just going to eat whatever I want for the rest of the week, and I'll start again on Monday. That's the what the hell effect. Now we turned something very tiny into this huge mountain.
And how often do we hear that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Constantly. Yeah. And I think, what people need to remember is that whatever we position our attention toward, and anything that we do, positive or negative, has the propensity to become a habit. Anything we do, negative or positive. And so I ask my clients sometimes, do you really want to open that can of worms? Do you really want to go there? Like, why? Why would you even do that? If it has the propensity to turn into a negative behavior, negative habit, why?
Yeah, don't even risk it.
Don't even risk it. And that's part of that recognition for individuals who want to make permanent change of, I can change myself or I can change my environment. Am I going to put myself in a position that I know is going to be difficult for me? Well, a lot of times in the beginning, if someone is really lacking impulse control or self-control or willpower, that's kind of a good thing to do, to just avoid the situation altogether. Don't go to that party. Don't put yourself amongst it if it's going to be that big of a challenge until you've developed the skills to be able to navigate a situation like that more effectively, more optimally. But I think people, the other thing I see get in the way is individuals believing that they just need more willpower. That's my problem, Chris. I just need more self-control. And you know what? I think all of us can do better learning how to self-regulate more effectively. But if all we're relying on is willpower to white knuckle our way through the most difficult circumstances or situations in our lives when it comes to behavior change or really anything, we're going to fail. Willpower wasn't designed to be used when you're in the middle of a hard situation. It wasn't. It was designed to be used when you're calm and you can think clearly and you're in a reflective state to be able to say, when I need to exert my willpower, what would be the most effective thing for me to do in this situation? So it's best used when you're contemplating, when you're anticipating, when you're saying, okay, what might be hard that's coming up? What might be a difficult situation that I'm going to have to navigate? And what might be the best ways for me to approach it? But willpower, the more that we learn, the more that we really engage in situations that are challenging for us, but that we get through effectively, our willpower is strengthened, our confidence is strengthened, our sense of competence is strengthened. If there's one other thing that really is key for individuals maintaining their success, creating that long-term positive habit, it's support, and that's not any surprise, but it's not any support, it's autonomous support. So I can have someone who I deem to be a support person. Say I'm losing weight, I'm focused on my nutrition, and my husband says to me when I pick up the bag of chips, should you be eating those? My automatic reaction is probably going to be like, who are you to tell me what I should or shouldn't be eating? That doesn't feel real supportive, honey. Thanks. Autonomous support really helps the individual to feel like they have a say. I mean, autonomy, creating a sense of choice. And it's our job to be able to help the people in our lives to support us in the best way that we need, not in the best way they know how, because their way may not be the right way for us. So for us to be able to say, this is what I really need. This is what you can say to me. Maybe you could use this signal when you can tell I'm struggling. I often will have my clients, talk to their friends, talk to their loved ones after they've identified, say they're a person who really struggles with impulsivity, right? So not thinking before they make a move or a decision or take an action. So we're working on self-control, we're working on self-regulation. And that's one of the biggest things, particularly as it relates to emotional eating, that gets in the way of long-term weight loss success. But I will have my clients identify the most common emotions that they experience that seem to cause barriers to them making good decisions. So she might say, well, anxiety is a big one, or boredom. Yeah, those are the two big ones that I find myself kind of falling into, and then especially anxiety when like I'm looking for snacks. I get uncomfortable and I'm looking for something to eat. So we'll ask her, like, how do you know, though? How do you know that you're anxious? Like, how would I know? If I were a fly on the wall of your office, what would I see? Or at home? Because in different contexts, that emotion might present itself differently. So what would your coworkers see? What would you feel on the inside of your body that signals you there's that emotion? Because we have to have a sense of internally what's occurring, but then there are signals and signs that can occur on the outside that cue us to be able to recognize, oh, there it is. Okay, this is one of those times. If I were going to approach this in a different way, a novel way, in a way that would be effective for me to meet my goal, what might that look like? And then when I ask them to ask their coworkers or their spouse or significant other what they notice, it's really eye-opening for them, because they're hearing things that they didn't even recognize they were doing or saying, or ways that they were acting. And so it creates, it's like a next level awareness that's pretty powerful for them.
That's a really good point, and I think that's definitely something the listener can take away with is objectively, and I think that kind of like swindles back around to what you were saying before, that growth mindset, that having that objective sort of rational thought process of being like, okay, what am I doing? What triggers this? How do I feel? And then being able to go to someone you can trust and be like, what actually happens in a certain process? And then when that kind of starts coming up, be objective about it again. Okay, now I can work on this properly.
Yeah, and the thing is we really may not like what they have to hear. We really may not like it at all. We might get hurt. It can be risky to open up to that level of vulnerability with people that even when we trust them, they can say something that really just like, it can feel a little fracturing. And so, the individuals who I think really succeed the most is they're critical thinkers, but they've got a high level of emotional intelligence too. They're able to say, okay, what is this? What is this that I'm experiencing inside? And what is it telling me? Because the people who try to push emotion away, any sort of feeling, avoid it, like, this is uncomfortable, I don't want it, get me as far away from it as possible, they're going to struggle. Emotions, they got to be felt. And we don't have to fall into them. We don't have to get sucked into them and ruminate in them and engage in, and I think that's what a lot of people are scared of. Well, if I feel it, then I'm not going to be able to get out of it. And that's just not true. We just have to learn how to acknowledge that it's there. And you even see this physiologically, what happens in the body when you recognize you're having a certain emotion, to be able to name it and say, oh, that's anxiety. Objectively, that's anxiety, instead of I'm anxious. See the difference? We can separate ourselves a little bit from it.
Yes.
And that's so, so important. But the second that we name it, even if we're just to say, oh, that's discomfort, instead of a certain emotion. Maybe you don't know the name. Maybe you can't identify what it is, but it's uncomfortable. The centers in your brain called the amygdala, the emotional centers in your brain, deactivate. They calm down immediately. So the parasympathetic nervous response is activated. That's pretty powerful. So noticing it, being able to notice it, having a level of intelligence around it to then be able to acknowledge it, and then have a sense of awareness around it to be able to say, okay, don't necessarily like this, but I'm okay and I can be with it. Now, how would I like to proceed? That's very different than, oh my gosh, I'm so uncomfortable. And you see this with people who are dieting too, like, oh my gosh, and maybe competitors too. Oh my gosh, I'm starving. Like, I need to eat right now. And so then they're off and running. You know what? They're in threat mode, like cortisol spiking and and yeah, that you see binging occur at that point. So that objective mindset is really, really, it's key.
That's great, Kori. You've been really, really generous with being able to give that information. There's so many. I've listed tons of takeaway points that someone's been able to use just from this short conversation that we've had. I've got one question. With the book, why 50 days?
50 days. Because it's manageable.
See, I want to know the science and application behind it.
Yeah. Science behind it. Well, the whole book is about science. 50 days is, and when we look at behavior change, I mean, we need quick results. 50 days doesn't mean you're going to be able to maintain it. But 50 days allows you to see changes based on your efforts. The individuals who want to keep going, who are willing to invest the time and the energy and the effort, all of us, if we feel like we're spinning our wheels and we're not getting results, do we want to keep going? Rarely. 50 days is manageable. We have in the book too, like a rapid results guide for the same reason. Behaviorally, we need to see that our efforts are paying off. But the book also targets maintenance and sustainability. There are activities in there specifically geared toward mindset and psychology that the individual who's going through the 50 days of meal plans, the 50 days of workouts, they're using these activities to activate their minds, to activate their brains, to create this meta level awareness. So they're learning about their behaviors, they're learning about how they think, and they're learning about how they think affects their behaviors. But then they're able to sink down a little bit deeper and lower, where they're able to be aware of their awareness. So to be able to say, okay, I know I thought that, but have I thought about the way that I think? So, I mean, the book it's incredibly comprehensive. But the whole premise behind it is to teach people how to be their own best nutritionists for the long term.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful, as in you're empowering them to be able to start taking on the role and doing the job. It's not like, yes, you absolutely need to see results quickly to be able to spur you on to keep going, but you still have the tools required for you to be able to keep going and get all the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's well put.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Kori. Before I let you go, I think it's very, very important that you give a little bit of a spiel on how people can find out more about you, and also with the book as well.
Oh, yes. Wonderful. Well, people can email me directly at Kori, spelled Kori, at thedietdoc.com. And our website is www.thedietdoc.com. So our book can be ordered directly from the shop, and we do have a book package right now that includes the book itself, a 3-part podcast that's done by me on changing your relationship with food. So it's a great package deal, and we have a huge blog too, Chris. So it would be great for everyone to come on there too and just see the massive amounts of resources that we have as well. But
definitely. I'll link everything that you've just said before, including the blog, on the show notes, so people can pop straight over on there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Kori. You're an absolute legend.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
This has been another jaw-dropping podcast from the Fat Loss Pro, Chris DeFay. After subscribing to the Fat Loss Pro podcast,
Go to www.chrisdefay.com
to get your free fat loss diet.